Welcome to the Daily Deuce post-Thanksgiving edition. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, the land of pleasant living. My longtime friend, esteemed colleague, and well-known coach, John Webster. John, how are you doing today?
Gary, I'm doing good, man. Been a long time, man. Feel like, I got to get to know you again, get to know you in Pittsburgh. I ain't seen y'all in a long time. How was Thanksgiving for both of you?
My Thanksgiving was just wonderful. Got to spend it with some friends and family, and in North Carolina, man, I'm doing very well, and we ate well. We might not have eaten as well as our man John Pitt, as he was telling me, but we ate well.
John Pitt, how was Thanksgiving, man?
My favorite holiday: family, friends, football, food. You can't get any better than that. It was great. It was small, but it was great. And
Family, football, food, the three F's,
and friends. Don't forget friends.
four F's. I didn't go too far in school. Most time during math class, I was at basketball practice.
Or on the activity bus, right, John?
Maybe both.
Yep. Well, the other thing that I'm thankful for is that we have plenty of sports to talk about, and let's start with the Turkey Day prime feature, NFL football. Oh man. In short, we had some interesting games. We saw one coach his last game with the Chicago Bears. We saw, let's see, who else? We saw Dallas win, which some of us wondered whether they would win or not. Um, and we saw Kansas City, stay pretty much invincible, for lack of, or unbeatable, except for that one time. Um, there's just so much going on. But I guess let's fast forward to Sunday's action and the Ravens and Eagles. John, what's your impression of both of those teams right now? Are they teams heading in opposite directions? Is that a true indicator of where these teams are? Or, was it just like I said, just kind of one game out of 17?
Philadelphia's playing really good ball right now, Gary. Um, they have the second best record in the NFC. I'm thinking they will end up with the best record, and they are a very tough team to stop on offense. Do you stop Jalen Hurts? Do you stop Saquon Barkley? Do you stop AJ Brown? Or do you stop Devontae Smith? You can't stop them all. Pick your poison. The
Yeah.
Ravens on the other side, I something we talked about at the beginning of the season, Gary. In the beginning of the season, we talked about maybe the offense would have to carry the defense for a while, and that happened in the beginning of the season. But now I think they have gone into a slump. They've lost to Cleveland, they've lost to Pittsburgh, they've lost to Philadelphia. I just don't know if they're clicking on all cylinders. Another thing that has to be looked at, and this is a painful thing to look at, Gary, with the Ravens, very painful, but sometimes you have to do difficult things. Is Justin Tucker still Justin Tucker? I said in the beginning of the season, he's getting older. And as you get older, you become more normalized, whether you're a running back, whether you're a shooting guard in basketball, whether you're a kicker,
Or a sports writer.
or well, I won't say that. You're in my mind, you're still one of the best. You always will be.
Well, thank you.
Father Time loses to no one. Father Time is undefeated. And as great as Justin Tucker has been over the years, absolutely one of the best, and a Hall of Fame kicker. Make no mistake about it. But is he the kicker right now that the Ravens really need? And that's a really hard question, man. That's why I'm so glad I'm not a GM or owner of a team. I don't want to deal with a question like that because I'm probably going to err on the side. I'm going to give that guy too much time because almost all he's done for the organization, I just got to give him every chance. And sometimes every chance takes away your chances as a team. So, long story short, you look at the Ravens right now, who would have thunk it? They're almost on the outside looking in at a playoff spot. Right now, first place in the AFC North is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's playing great ball. But the Ravens, they're 3-3 in their last 6 games. They started the season 7-1. So what are they now? They started the season 7-1.
They're 8-5 now, I think.
8-5, something like that. Okay, started season 5-1, I guess. So they're 8-4, 8-5, something like that. They're trending in the wrong way. I think they have a bye this week. They really need to bye. I think they do, Gary. I think they do.
Yeah.
It's just rough. But Philadelphia, definitely NFC East. They're the best team in NFC East. I guess we'll talk about those other 3 teams in a couple seconds in NFC East, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Looking at Justin Tucker from a sports writer standpoint, like if I'm writing that lead, or I'll say if I'm writing a sidebar, because Philadelphia is the lead of my story, and they're doing it with Hurts, Devontae Smith, they're doing it with Saquon Barkley. They've won 8 in a row, and they look like a team that's hitting stride. And you wonder, is this the team that we thought they could be at the beginning of the season? But in terms of Justin Tucker, my sidebar is he thinking too much as a kicker? And sometimes you can look at a guy's body language. Sometimes you can look at a guy's face in any sport, and you can tell whether he's going to make the shot, whether he's going to hit that pitch, or whether, in Justin Tucker's case, he's going to make that kick. And I mean, I never thought I would see him miss 2 kicks. Well, heck, I never thought I would see him miss a kick, 1 kick. That's how consistent he's been for so long. But to miss an extra point and then to miss field goals on top of that, something's going on, and I think it's going on in his head. It's like he hits it right, but it's like, again, I think he's thinking too much. And just like, remember Steve Sachs and the problems that he had throwing over to first base,
From
with the
second base?
Dodgers. They had to move him to the outfield. I'm trying to think of another player. I think he was with the Cardinals where they had to move him out there as well, because he had kind of lost his ability to throw to first base, seemingly the easy thing. Um, I'm with you, John. I give him the benefit of the doubt, but you have to start thinking about the long term. And if this becomes an issue over the next couple of games, you might have to bring in somebody to kind of push him, because, no job is totally safe in the NFL. Even one of the most reliable kickers in NFL history, as you said, a bona fide future Hall of Famer. But
Mhm.
I mean, when just do the math. 7 points you left on the field, 7 points that could have made a difference in the game, not just the final score, but you figure if he makes those kicks and the position that it could have put Philly in, that, again, that's one of those things where I think they just figured, we've got another half. He's not hitting his kicks. All we have to do is keep doing what we do on offense and confuse Lamar Jackson on top of that, because that's something else that's pretty clear with the coverages that when I say they confused him, I'll just say they cut off his options and they forced him to leave the pocket, and they had somebody waiting there for him, like a lot of teams should do, much like Kansas City did last year when they played him. And I think if you're John Harbaugh, if you're Todd Monken, you got to figure out a way to just free him up and just like give him an option. Maybe throw to Henry out of the backfield. I don't know. But in terms of Justin Tucker, it's a concern now. I don't think it's a problem, but it's a concern that you really have to monitor for the next couple of games, because as you said, they're on the verge of, well, they're kind of on the outside looking in my view. They're still in the hunt for the wild card, but they're trending downward.
Yeah. We'll see what's going to happen, but let's move over to the NFC East, man. Our main talking points, man. What do you think about the Commanders, and what do you think about the Cowboys beating the Giants on Turkey Day?
Well, I'm gonna start with the Cowboys first. I was at a gathering amongst a ranch of cowboy fans, and that's the only way I can describe it. Um, I mean, they were all cowboy fans. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how all of these folks grow up in DC and become cowboy fans, but that's a discussion, for another time. And it's one we've had off screen with some people that are near and dear and close to our hearts. Um, I'll say it like this. There were a lot of people that were sitting on pins and needles, if Cowboys fans specifically, wondering if they would lose that game. And it was a legitimate concern because I think if they had lost that game, look, another head would have rolled probably the next day. I'm convinced of that. So that was a game that they had to win. And the fact that they did win shouldn't be that surprising. But everybody, there's a sense of urgency among the Cowboys, among their fans. If we talk about confidence again, I think it was good for their confidence. They needed that one. It wasn't thorough, but it was just what they needed. And now I guess as far as Philadelphia, or excuse me, as far as Washington's concerned, yesterday's win was just what they needed. They needed a slump buster. And I use that term, or that term is used in other ways that can't be described here on this show, but they needed a big bounce back win, and the Titans were that team. They needed a homecoming opponent, and the Titans were that team. And the score was the indicator of that.
Well, I agree with you. Dallas got a much needed win. They needed to beat the Giants. They pulled that out. It was probably more uglier and closer than it needed to be, but a win is a win is a win.
Yep.
Now the Commanders, much needed. They were coming off a 3-game losing streak. They lost to Dallas. They lost to Philly. They lost to Pittsburgh. Yesterday, they concentrated on the run. They also concentrated on getting the ball to Terry McLaurin. Both of those things were very effective. At one point, I think they had 220, 230, maybe 240 some yards rushing. So
Mm-hmm.
it was working out really well. Robinson was running well. Then they went with who was that? McNichol? Was it McNichol they went with in the end, or was that Rodriguez? I
Might
know.
have been Rodriguez, but we didn't get that game on here. We had here in Louisville, we get all of Lamar's games.
Well, you get one of the best in the league, so you can't. That's a fair deal.
I've got no complaints about it. Oh yeah, and we also had the Bengals Steelers here. That was the other one because that's the team up the road, and that's maybe a subject we should delve into too.
Well, we definitely can. Let me just say this one thing about Washington. 4 games left in the season. After the bye week, they have New Orleans, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Dallas. 2-2 makes them 10-7?
10-7.
Does 10 wins get them into the playoffs? Knowing
No.
that 10 wins is a Minnesota team, that's a wild card. Green Bay's getting ready to be a 10-win team, that's a wild card. These two teams are already going to have 10 wins with 4 games to go. So, Washington at 10, I definitely, I would say this, 9 definitely does not do it. 10 may do it, 11 for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, 11 will do it for sure, but right now we just have to get them to 10, and I feel better about it after Sunday, but 11 wins, or excuse me, 10 wins in that conference, the way that some of these teams are playing now, they could be on the outside looking in at a wild card spot. I think Washington fans should take that, considering they really didn't expect that at the beginning of the season. But the bar has been raised so high that it would be seen as a disappointment if they don't get there. with the start that they had, and even with winning 10 games, being on the outside looking in. Remember, some of Joe Gibbs's teams, he had some 10 win teams that didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or when they did, they were low seed wild cards. So, you know, it's all on them. They have to beat Dallas. They have to beat Philadelphia. Those are the two games they must win if they really want to give themselves a chance, because I do think they could probably beat Atlanta the way Atlanta is slumping right now. New Orleans is a mess. I don't want to put anything past the Saints pulling the surprise, but Washington now has two games that they have to win with Philadelphia and Dallas if they really want to get into the playoffs. They 2-2 does not get them in. If they win the right two, I think they've got a pretty good shot, especially within the conference.
Well, you said a mouthful, Gary Graves. We'll see what's going to happen. You have mentioned that Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game. Pretty exciting game, huh?
Oh man, I mean, 82 points. And Joe Burrow throws something like four touchdown passes. Well, let's just say they score 38 points and lose. And it's not the first time. I think it was something like the fourth time this season that they have scored at least 40 points and lost. Joe Burrow is fun to watch. And I think that's the reason why it's like they're not obviously they're not going to the playoffs. Pittsburgh is a team, that's trending upward, probably will win the division. But Joe Burrow is fun to watch because they can be down and he can get them right back in there. The problem is they just don't have much else to help him out on the other side of the ball. You've given up 44 points at home. That's inexcusable, even if it is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's a good point. Since we're in Ohio, maybe what could have happened, some of those points that Cincinnati scored, you think maybe they could have loaned them to Ohio State so they could have, beaten Michigan?
Yeah, speaking of kickers, I think, well, because I was covering Louisville and Kentucky at the same time that game was going on and just kind of paying attention, just catching the score when I could. When I saw that it was a low scoring game, and I thought that's not good for Ohio State. Even though they're playing at home, I figure if you can't score points at home, if you're struggling to reach double digits at home, you're not doing well. And I want to say yes, that Michigan won that game, but I would say Ohio State kind of lost it more than Michigan won it, because Michigan really didn't impress me at all. You win in games, 13-12 or something like that. Yeah, Michigan needs every win it can get, but 13 points, that ain't exactly a mandate. That speaks more about what Ohio State couldn't do. And again, their kicker missed two horrible kicks. I watched the highlights this morning, and I'm just incredulous. I know it's a high pressure job out there, but you know that kid does not really miss too many kicks, and I mean he just looked bad at
Ohio
home.
State is the only, no, I won't say the only. I'll say this. Ohio State is one of the few jobs where they lose the rivalry game to Michigan. They've lost the last 4 years. He could go to the national championship game and win the national championship and still get fired because he didn't beat Michigan.
Yep. It's probably the weirdest dilemma when you're Ryan Day and you're coaching at Ohio State, because I think the number against the rest of the Big Ten is something like 35-1, under him. But, you've got to win the game. That's what they call it. You got to win the game, and you can't lose twice in that span at home if you're Ryan Day. And I was one of those, reading the social media comments afterward and agreeing wholeheartedly that he's probably should be fired. I mean, that was how I felt on Saturday. I'm looking at it from a different standpoint now because, you could talk about firing somebody, but who do you bring in?
Well,
Especially if you're Ohio State.
this is what I'll say. I'll come back at the end. If he gets fired, I'll come back and tell you where I would love to see him go to. And just so you don't think it, no, I'm not talking about Notre Dame. I'll leave it with that. But let's look at the rest of these teams here in this playoff brackets, Gary. You got the college playoff rankings coming out tomorrow. I did a little reading about possible projections. The first four seeds could be right now: Oregon, Texas, SMU, Boise State. First four seeds is what I'm reading. Possibly. Because one of the, what's it called? The Big Five. Big Five is guaranteed.
Well, Power Four. It's right now it's Power Four.
They're guaranteed a spot. So you have to get them in. SMU is going to get in with the ACC. And then the other thing that
Are you sure? Do you think?
Who's SMU playing in the championship?
Clemson.
I think they beat
and Clemson's been there. I know what you're saying. I'm kind of on the SMU bandwagon too, but Clemson getting there, even with probably one of their worst teams in years, to be in that position. Clemson is still Clemson, and they know how to play that game, and it's right in their backyard.
Yeah, you're right, but I really want SMU to win and love for them to be able to share some of them $100 handshakes with everybody, So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, now that it's legal, right?
Well, hey, life is a cyclical process, my friend.
Yeah. Well, since you talk about those top four seeds, I'll say this: the two that I really like, and I was making a list here about teams that are teams that were exposed and teams that look legit. And I'll run these two or three by you.
The first one that should be exposed is Notre Dame. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even get down that far, but a good point. Okay, let's start with Oregon. Oregon is for real. Oregon, I'm not going to say that they're going to run the table, but they look pretty good. And I still don't think they have played their best football yet.
Right.
They should win the Big Ten. Texas is for real. Texas will probably beat Georgia. They get another crack at them in the SEC title game. I know it's in Georgia's backyard, but Texas right now looks like the Texas team of old, and they're smart to avenge that loss on their home field to Georgia earlier in the season.
Right.
Okay, Clemson. Clemson's been exposed, and I know what I just said about what they could do in the ACC, but losing to South Carolina, as well as South Carolina is playing right now under Shane Beamer. I mean, he's really got that team pointed in the right direction. Clemson should win that game probably 7 out of 10 times, and they lost like that one of those three on Saturday. But I think that they've been exposed. Okay. Miami has been exposed big time. As much as I love Cam Ward, that's just a game. No, they shouldn't have lost, and I think they might have fallen out of the rankings. Excuse me, not the rankings, but I think they might have fallen out of the playoff picture because of that.
They were winning 21-0, right?
Yeah. And every time they lose a game that they shouldn't, it points a harsh light on Mario Cristobal. Fairly unfairly, that's how it is right now at Miami with with how high that bar is set. I know they haven't really been a title contender, for a few years. But because of the age, in the age of NIL and parity and transfer portal, he's got a pretty stocked roster, and that team should not lose to say the Wake Forest of the world and such. And that's the thing that really bothers me. When they beat Louisville, I thought that was a game they probably should have lost but won. And he knew how to use his quality players in that one. But yeah, Miami, I had high hopes for them of meeting SMU, but they just couldn't deliver.
Well, let me add a couple more teams in there that I see. I see Notre Dame getting in. I think they're skeptical because I looked them playing USC the other night, and the pass defense was horrendous. Penn State's going to get in. Alabama's going to get in. We said Georgia. Indiana gets in. Ohio State gets in. They play Tennessee. Now, one of the things that you know about me, you and Pitt know, my son Dante knows, I love outdoor football. I love outdoor baseball. So, what I am really hoping for, I'm looking forward to possibly Arizona State getting in and having to go to Notre Dame in mid-December and freeze. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking
So am
forward
I,
to
because I'm writing a story on that.
I'm looking forward to somebody going to Boise State and playing on a blue field on a Friday night in 2-degree weather. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to Penn State maybe playing Alabama and Alabama having to go to what part? What is it? What is that called? State College, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Cold weather and snow. I'm looking. The only thing I don't have in this projected matchup that I was reading about, they got Georgia playing Indiana at Georgia. Just doesn't get cold enough for me at Georgia, Gary. I need the game to be in Bloomington.
Yeah. Well, that kind of matchup, I would definitely put in the Bulldogs' favor because a team like Indiana who has never been on a stage like that, you got to go down there and play them between the hedges and try to beat them there. They're good enough where they could, but that big stage, for a lot of first timers, look at what happened with Cincinnati a few years ago.
And
That
how
was a good
about
team, but again, their first time on a national stage, when you've never been there, you understand just how tough it is and how you've got to rise to the occasion. Indiana is capable, but that's still a tall, tall task.
and last but not least, my friend Ryan Day. They may play Tennessee. Tennessee goes to Columbus, Ohio. I love it. Another SEC team that plays in 60, 70, and 75-degree weather. Gary, we could go along all day long talking about this. We've run out of time. Take us home. I'll just say one thing real quick. We probably don't have time for rebuttal. If they have a coaching change in Maryland, and I'm not rooting for that, I would like to see Mike Locksley stay in there and be able to keep doing it. But if they do have a change, my vote is Ryan Day going to Maryland. Take us home, Gary.
Man, you shot for the moon on that one. I don't even know how I can follow that, but thank you very much. Are you going to chip in for that salary?
Hey, I'll do whatever because Maryland deserves the chance. But in order to do it, sometimes you got to roll the dice, Gary. You got to shoot for the moon.
All right.
I'm not rooting for Locksley to lose his job. I hope he can stay there. But if things do not go the way they need to go, shoot for the moon, man.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean that's why you join that league, to play the bill to try to beat the best. Now, okay, well, we've got conference title games coming up this weekend. It doesn't get any better than that. 3 days later, we have the playoff field set, so we have something else to look forward to. Hopefully, we can have an edition of the Daily Deuce before they make those announcements. Maybe have one after, John. I don't know. But watch college football. Watch all the NFL games this weekend because I think you see kind of a pecking order being set up in both conferences. That's all I can say. Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, they are looking good.
Hey, thanks for joining us again this week. Sorry we have been gone for a little bit. We're back and we're ready to keep rolling with college football, NFL. We're ready to roll with hockey. We're ready to talk about the NBA. We're ready to talk about college basketball, women's college basketball. You name it, we're ready to talk about it. You all continue to be safe out there. Take care, and we're going to see you again real soon.